Well, good morning, y'all. We got another big day out here on the creek. And say hello, Rona. Rona has already been swimming, stirred up the muck. But look how beautiful this is. We have moved a lot of loads. Had a big day on Friday, got 54 loads hauled out. We've had some problems earlier in the week with the machine breaking down, but now we're moving right along, and a couple of days like the one we had on Friday and we'll be finished here. Let's just hope for the best. I'm working really hard to keep the loads managed at the top up there where we're moving them to, and this is looking really good. We're cutting the gravel down that came from the flood until we get down to, until he feels the clay at the bottom of the creek, which is like the original, it's what is in the bottom of the creek bed. And if you look, you can see, because when he's digging, he can't really see exactly what he's doing. And so he leaves these bits and pieces of gravel and rock debris on the bottom. And you might think that that's something that would be better if he got it all cleaned perfectly. But no, I think this is going to be really good habitat for the fish. And it'll give some interest on the bottom. Now, if you look at this right here, is the level that the creek is in a normal in a normal condition, like when 2 years ago, and for the last couple of years until the drought took over. And that is going to put this pool at about 7 feet deep on average, which is going to be really nice. We're going to come in after that, after we get finished cleaning that out, we're going to come in and clean up this causeway that we're building, and we're going to clean up some of this gravel on the downstream side, and we're going to build that ramp I talked to you about in that first video. I know that video hasn't been very popular with my subscribers, but it's important to me, and I want to show you what I'm doing, and also why I'm not working on other projects right now. This is all consuming. I worked until dark on Friday moving loads. We had 54 loads and I couldn't keep up during the day. And if I stop for lunch and the trucks are still moving, by the time lunch is over, there's 6 more loads out there for me to clean up. I'm going to try to piece together a couple of segments here. I'm going to take you over and show you how the machine is working, and then I'm going to take you up at the top and show you what I have to do to manage the loads up there. So it's early this morning, and you might see the sun come up in the later part of this video. Have to do a little bit of editing. Oh, all right. Let's move it along. Hope you'll stick around and see the whole thing. Bye-bye. Let's go, Rona. So from this end, we've got 2 dump trucks this size. They hauled about 14 tons. And the excavator is loading them with gravel that what we do is we pull it up out of the bottom, and it's full of water. If we just dump that into the truck will haul that water up the hill, and the roads will get wetter and wetter, and pretty soon we'll have a problem. So what we do is we go ahead and dig it up out and place it up out of the water so that it can drain for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then we load that up into the truck. And if we get a little water in, it's fine. We just can't put water in with every scoop. And this operator is really smooth in how he is using this machine, and we're keeping a nice clean, steep line. And then there's a couple of places where we have a little shallower, rampy kind of side bottom. And we don't have a long way left to go, but where we have left to go, it's pretty deep with this material. So we won't be done today. We might be done with the gravel. Rona's having such a good time this morning. We might be done with the bulk of the gravel after sometime tomorrow, but we're really moving along. As long as we can keep the machines operating and the trucks running, we should get done here pretty soon. And then it's going to take, I'm guessing a couple of years to get the vegetation to stabilize the sides here, like it on this side, like it is on the original side. And I can hardly wait to see it and help it. We're gonna do some things to help vegetate the sides a little bit better by taking some of the native grass seeds and spreading them on the sides. I don't think we'll do any irrigation, but I do think that we're gonna count on nature to give us some help with that. We'll keep a good eye on it, and we'll try to protect our fish populations with anything that we do. So I'm gonna go get on the tractor and start making room for these loads that they're dropping. And I think by the time we get finished, we'll probably have about 200 loads this size that we're hauling out. It's a big project. We're taking advantage of the opportunity we have now with this drought to get down here and clean this up. I think we've got a good approach to how we're doing it. And well, that one's full. All right, I'm gonna head on up the hill and I'll show you what I'm doing up there. All right, it's later in the day and I've been moving material all day. I have two dump trucks running. One's coming up the hill now. They're two different trucks. One is a lightweight, one is heavyweight. And so one of them can back a little further down the slope without danger. The heavy one has gotten stuck twice and we've had to pull him back out. So the material is gravel and clay mix, but there's a lot of moisture in it, so there's lubricity, and it'll move on itself. And you know, if it gets wet enough, you can have mudslides and such. And so what we want to make sure we do is limit how much water ends up in this material. They're placing these piles, and then I'm pushing them over the edge, and hopefully I get the slope to where it meets down there, but I might have a little bit of tailing slope just because this is so high compared to the ground down below. I'm going to show you how I move these piles. Hopefully my microphone will work while we're working, and but let me show you a couple of things. So this tree is in the way. So I'm working the material behind the tree by putting pile after pile in this location and moving it off down there behind it. And then I'm trying to keep a gentle enough slope that the trucks can get part way down before they dump. And then I can handle quite a bit of slope in this four-wheel drive tractor. Once I lock the differential, I can climb right back out of a pretty steep piece of terrain. And then I've got my fallback. If I really started to have a hard time getting out, I can plant the bucket and use the bucket to back me out. I'm leaving these piles here because it's a message to the truck driver that I don't need any more material in this area. And that's because the slope is a little shallower here, and this is enough material to go ahead and fill this in, and I don't want to keep piling material up there. I stopped and had lunch. I had caught up with them, but I stopped and had lunch, and in the time that I was eating lunch, the turnaround time is so short that they really started ganging up on me and building up a lot of material for me to manage. So here comes the truck now. This is a heavy truck. The light truck put the pile pretty far down the slope, and you can see his tracks are kind of deep, but he didn't have a problem with getting stuck, and he was able to push this pile pretty far back, and it'll be easy for me to push this pile off the hill. Whereas the truck that's coming now is the heavy truck, and he's the one that tends to put the piles way up here, and then I have to work really hard to get them down the slope. So let's see how it goes. I'm going to jump in the tractor now. I don't think I need to wait for him to dump that load. I'm going to jump in the tractor now, and I'm going to start spreading this down the hill, and I'll try to talk to you. We'll stay close to the camera, and I'll try to be able to talk to you so I can explain what I'm doing as I'm making my moves, because there's a little bit of strategy in how you handle the machine, and I'll try to walk you through it as I do it. The tractor now has almost 100 hours on it. We've been working it pretty hard. It's had its first service, and I'm going to operate it in first gear, 4-wheel drive, and then when I need extra hump, I'm going to walk in the differential, the rear differential, so all 4 wheels are turning together, and then I get a lot of push. So I'm going to start with this pile right here, because I want to make way for another one to come in here. And what I want to do when I first start on the pile, I want to start up high and dip the bucket a little bit and push off the back side of it. If I time it, coordinated it properly, I'll dip the bucket at the last to really get a good chunk of material to fall off the back side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a path through the middle of the pile, so that if I attack one side of the pile, the tractor is going to be off kilter. But if I go right into the middle of the pile, the tractor will hit it in an even and equal and balanced way. Now I need a little extra hump. I'm going to lock in that rear differential, and that will get all the tires turning. All the ponies. It's a 57 horse tractor, and you know, it's not a bulldozer, and it's not a skid steer with tracks on it, but it can push a pretty heavy burden in front of it. And it is, so far we've moved well over 100 piles of gravel and clay coming up out of the creek. You can see when I get down deep in the pile, a lot of meat. And one trick I can use when it starts to be too much, I can tip the bucket back, and that puts an angle under the bucket, and suddenly I can move forwards. And that's because it lifts the weight off the front tires, puts more of the meat into the rear tires, and drives me forwards. And then I dip the bucket at the end and push that scoop off the front, off the rear of the hillside that I'm working on. I think when I come in this time, I'm going to try to put the bucket level. I'm going to go ahead and lock in the rear differential, because I know this is going to be a hard push. And when I start to get a little bit too heavy, I'm going to lift the bucket a little, and I'm going to roll the bucket back a little. And it does two things. It makes it easier to move forwards, but it also helps to
compact the material under the bucket, which is going to give me a little bit of compaction on the wheels that I'm about to drive on the pile with. Now, as I get on the downhill, on the back side of the slope, I don't need the differential anymore. I shift to using the brake to make sure I don't move too far forwards. And you can see that material is just sliding off the side of the hill. Now, as I've worked my way through this pile, and I've got a hill on either side of me now, and so I'm going to attack each of those in an even way. But I'm going to read the terrain. The left side's a little lower than the right side, and so I'm going to attack that a little bit more on the left side of the bucket, because I want to make sure that I stay even. And by putting a lot of drive into the left side of the bucket, it's going to help maintain an even attitude with the tractor. And once I get this first pass, the bulk of the material pushed off down the hill, I'll be able to come back and probably just make one last pass through. Now, I'm not using the rear differential. That's just four-wheel drive that backed me out of there. Now I back up and I take a read on it. And what I want to do is set the blade level now, the bucket level, just tip back just a hair. I want to start rising up as it starts to become too much load. And you see I'm keeping a lot of load on the left side of the bucket. And that's keeping my tractor even. I don't want the tractor to be tipped off to the left or to the right as I'm pushing forwards. It's not necessarily dangerous, but I want the bucket to be even so it leaves an even path behind me. You see, I've got this soil that I've worked in behind this tree, and I'm going to meet the terrain in just a few more loads. I'm going to end up meeting the terrain evenly. One more pass here now on the left side where I left a little furrow beside it. I'm going to come in on the left side, and you see I'm able to read that pile and attack it just right to where it keeps the tractor even. Now I'm on the brake, and I'm just rolling the material off. Now, the material at the edge of this pile is really loose. You don't want to get on it. But by the time I get to the next pass, I've driven over it a couple of times, and I've firmed it up, and I can keep going a little bit further and a little bit further out. I haven't felt any real serious looseness here, but I can get some looseness if I load the bucket too hard and try to lift it. It'll try to push those front wheels down into the softness, and I don't want that. I'm going to use my bucket to help stabilize me, and you get a feel for it with experience. You get a feel for how much you can get away with, and I can say I've never put myself in a risky situation with the machine. Not this machine, not my road grader, or any of the other heavy equipment that I've used over the decades that I've been working in construction. And often I have operated the heavy equipment myself because I can get what I want more easily if I do it myself than if I try to explain it to someone else. It's also often less expensive if I do it myself because the efficiency goes up. I might not be as experienced as a full-time operator, but I might have a different way of thinking about it and managing it. And after a few days or a week on a machine, your body just becomes one with it. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to move this small pile That one was pretty far back from the edge. Now this light truck dropped this pile over here closer to the edge, and I'll show you the difference. When I push this over, this will go really quickly. Because I can almost, when I'm pushing off the backside of this pile, it will almost be just falling down the hillside. Some of that actually did, I think, go on down the hillside. This morning, the pile was, this hillside was really dry and firm from the weekend, and they were able to back up and dump off the backside, and the piles were just falling off the back. But that only lasts a short while, because I'm about 20 feet further out from the edge now than I was this morning, so I'm all on material that was placed today, and it's still got a lot of moisture in it. It hasn't been compacted quite as well, but I sure do like the way this tractor works. Now I've taken too big of a bite. I'm going to back up a little bit, and I'm going to put a little bit of differential lock on there and push that big old pile on down the hill. That's a big old spill down that hill. I'll come back and take the rest of it that I had. I bit off more than I could chew. And now I'll push this off, and then just before I say goodbye to it, I'm going to dip the bucket one last time and kind of shove it on over. Now I've got these two windrows, and this one on the right side, I'm going to try to take a little bit of the pile beside it. I'm going to try to even myself up by doing that. I'm going to start to fall off to the left because it's not a great strategy, but I'm going to go ahead and do it because the position it's in means I'm just going to go ahead and make the compromise. Now behind me, this is that light truck. You see how close he's putting that pile to the edge. That's going to make things really easy on me. And this pile that he dropped the last time he was here, I'll have it pushed on down the hill in just a couple of minutes. I wish I had two trucks like his. It's not just the driver, it's also the vehicle itself. Some of these trucks have aluminum beds, and they can carry more material because the truck itself is lighter. And some of them have big, heavy steel beds. This guy driving this truck used to drive that heavy truck, and he says, I know what that truck can do, and I know what it can't do. And he's real grateful to be in the one he's in now. I'm going to finish this up. Have y'all subscribed to the channel yet? We have so many people watching this channel. If we got a few more of you to subscribe, it sure would make a big difference to us. And if you like the video and comment on the video, I'd really appreciate that too. Now looky there, isn't that nice? That's just, and it looks like I'm really close to the edge, but I'm really not. The wheels are back pretty far and they're on pretty firm ground. One more push right here, and this pile will be done. And you see how much more quickly that happened than the one that was just 10 feet back from the edge. Makes a huge difference for me. Now when I started this, I was about 15 feet above the ground where this drop-off was. And as I'm putting this here, I'm probably only about 6 feet above the ground now, and by the time we get the rest of the gravel up here, I think we're going to be pretty close to meeting the ground down there with an even grade. And I can also come back and seeping it up just a little bit. The material is still cuttable, and I'll be able to make it steeper Now I'm going to have to hit the differential lock to get myself out of here, and it's going to grab and come on out. And if it got any looser, I would use the bucket, and I would jam the bucket in like that and push myself out. All right. I'm going to stop it right there. Let's cool this is a turbocharged engine, and you can't just shut it down. We need to let it cool the turbo a little bit before you shut the engine off. I appreciate y'all watching. And I'm going to keep doing that till it gets dark tonight. Thank you for watching.